A very good morning to you all and welcome to IFSO 2025 in Chile. My name is Hazem El-Momeni, consultant bariatric surgeon, and I'd like to introduce my colleague Eric Pescluch. We're here to talk about social media and apps in metabolic and bariatric surgery. I'll be asking all the speakers to attend to the podium and to wait for questions afterwards. And if we've got enough time at the end, we can have further questions. So without further ado, I would like to invite my colleague and dear friend Mark Uter from Switzerland to talk us through the power of podcasts in destigmatization and raising awareness around metabolic and bariatric surgery. I know this topic is quite a close topic to Marco's heart. So without further ado, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you very much, dear Hazim, dear Eric, for this kind introduction and for giving us the opportunity to share some of our experiences in podcasting. I would like to start with, putting all of you in the context of my activity in this regard. I'm a bariatric surgeon. I'm a visceral surgeon with a special bariatric interest based in Switzerland. And as many of other activities, I'm co-hosting a German-speaking podcast. It's called Adi Podcast, and you see the label of the podcast on the right. And the goal of that activity is to raise awareness that obesity is a chronic disease and highlight the stigma affecting patients and therapies alike. And you can see where you can find this podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on all platforms you can come up with, where you can download podcasts for free. Why did we get in podcasting in the first place? Why do we need new media? Well, frankly, because this is the way people get their information today. This is exactly true, images that were generated by AI, but that give you a very good impression of how this works. People on the go, on their way to work, while commuting, while doing household care, while doing sports, they're listening to podcasts. And this is their way of getting information. According to statistics that I found online, some numbers from the US, about 548 million people worldwide listen to podcasts in 2025. And there's a growth of about 7% compared to the year before. And in the United States, that represents 158 million Americans that every month listen to a podcast, and that is more than half of the population that's older than 12 years old. This is the development of podcast listeners in the US, and you see a steep decline in the last decade, and I don't think that we actually reached the end or plateau in this development. Further, the average time people listen to podcasts is about 7 hours per week in the US, and most of those that actually listen to podcasts do that on their smartphone, which is about 86%, and they use their smartphone on the go because it's so mobile and you can do that wherever you are. These are numbers of which devices are used. You see that most people actually do use an Apple iPhone to listen to their podcast. About a quarter of the people use Android's phone, but only a very small fraction still does that in front of a desktop computer. So it's always when they are on the go. Where do they find their podcasts? Again, Apple is the number one as a platform, followed by Spotify, but with a significant distance between those two. And all the other platforms you may know or you may not know, but Apple and Spotify is the way to go. In order to show what podcasts can do these days, I would like to remind you to what happened in the US last year in the American election, where you saw two different strategies of how to get voters informed and how to get in touch with voters. One was the Trump strategy, and the other one would be what I would call the more traditional strategy of Mrs. Harris. What is it called? Harris? Yes. And on the right, you can see that by the different strategies, Mr. Trump reached more than 20 million people every week, older than 18 years old, compared to what Mrs. Harris reached, which was significantly less and only 25% of what Donald Trump reached. And that was not the only difference, but they used different key channels, like the Trump campaign specifically used podcasts and used social media to do that, while the Harris campaign, the Democratic campaign, was using the traditional ways of going from door to door, sending out emails. The messages were different, the engagement was different, and also the platform choices was different. And here it's mentioned the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the most successful podcasts out there on this planet. And just by participating and visiting and spending 1 hour or 1.5 hours talking to Joe Rogan, Mr. Trump was able to reach more than 26 million people within 24 hours. There's no paper that you could write to reach that, distribution among the people. And in total, he reached more than 41 million people just by participating in one podcast. And if you compare the reach of a podcast compared to television interviews, also based on the data that we know from the election, you see that the number of people that you could reach by Joe Rogan compared to traditional television interviews is huge. It's a big difference. And that matters. And it matters because candidates like Donald Trump can use that platform to bypass traditional fact-check medias and reach voters directly. You basically can say whatever you want, and it's very hard for the partners to check that in real time, whether that is true or whether that is not true. More than 87% of the listeners consider podcasts as accurate, and a third of them trust them more than traditional media. And the behavioral impact is that over 50% acted on podcast recommendations, like, movies to watch, books to read, diets to follow, courses to take, and 10% engaged in political action even, like donations or volunteering. So you can really make a difference by using podcasts. So for us, we're nowhere near Joe Rogan with our activity, obviously, but I think we're getting there. And I would like to explain a little bit more of what we do there. I do believe that our ADI podcast matters in medicine and bariatrics because you can reach people, you can gain trust, and you create some sort of intimacy because people actually listen to people that have an intense conversation about a topic of their interest. It's a low barrier and a high engagement medium people consume while doing different daily activities, and it's ideal for destigmatizing obesity and also for humanizing treatments because we all know that the disease is stigmatized, the people affected by the disease are stigmatized, they stigmatize themselves, but on top of that, I'm pretty sure that the treatment, especially surgery, is also stigmatized. We all suffer from that stigma to some degree, and that way, you can inform people by creating that platform. So far, we started a few years ago with a significant break in between, but since 1.5 or 2 years, we're publishing every 4 weeks, apparently. So we published 42 episodes in total, and we combine expert voices, so 2 surgeons, together with a patient, so we always have the patient perspective to have that concept of participation in it, and we also usually invite guests, so we invite patients to tell their stories, we invite internal doctors to talk about the medication, we talked about people with ethical background to talk about the stigmatization itself. We talk to scientists, like, explaining how hunger and satiety is organized in the brain. But all of that is done in lay language, so people get engaged. And we all know that patients that suffer from a chronic disease do show better results the better they are informed about their disease. A few numbers. You see that we started low with monthly unique listeners in the area of 200. When we started a few months back. But now we're up to 7,000 to 8,000 people every month, and we're still gaining. And once you reached a certain level of interest on Apple, for example, they start to recommend your podcast to people that listen to other podcasts that would be somehow topically related to what we do. And after that, you get even more attention, and we hope that we will get in contact with more people. What this also shows, this is nothing you just do on the go. This is hard work that needs planning. You need a topic plan. You need people to take care of that podcast technically, to make sure that, the tone and everything is above average and beyond doubt. Our listeners mainly come from Germany because obviously we're a German-speaking podcast. A quarter comes from Switzerland, even 10% from Austria. Imagine if we go up to not 8,000, but if we are able to double the number of listeners within the next year, we're speaking about 15,000 people. 10%, that's 1,500 people we reach with every episode. That's not much, but in that small bubble of patients, that's significant. And that's a medium definitely to be used. Average listening time in minutes, the average duration of one episode is somewhere between 45 to 50 minutes, and most people listen not the entire episode, but most of it. So in the end, I would like to highlight the strengths of the podcast format. It's participation, so it's not only doctors talking to people, it's also patients affected by the disease or whatever you want to talk about. You have depth and context. You have low threshold to reach people because they can do it while doing something else, and you can use it to destigmatize. And all of that is summarized in this figure, and due to time reasons, I'm hurrying up a little bit with a out view. These are pictures from yesterday with me and Pauliina Salminen, the current president of the European chapter of IFSO, together with Riccardo Cohn and Francesco Rubino talking about the Lancet Commission yesterday. So we started to have an English-speaking podcast too, together with video, and you could find that on YouTube, and I hope that all of these episodes will be broadcasted starting in 2026 in January. It's called the Obesity Podcast. It's supported by Johnson & Johnson, and thank you very much for your attention. And if there is time for questions, I'm happy to answer them either now or later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marco. Excellent exposition. Do we have some questions from the public? Yep.
I'll have a question.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Okay. Marco, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, commendable effort and commitment. Are there any legal or licensing requirements that you'd need to get beforehand before starting such a service? And I'm reflecting on the country I practice in. There's absolutely no way I'll be able to do this if I don't get the right licensing, because there are people looking over our shoulder all the time with everything that we say.
Well, you need actually people to support you technically.
I'm talking licensing, legislative.
No problem.
Nothing.
Everyone can do it. We did not encounter any legal problems on starting that. And before you publish a episode, for example, if you go to Apple, they check it for its content. For example, we had one on our earlier episodes, we were discussing, sexual abuse. And just the term of sexual abuse led to the fact that Apple had, gave us a hard time publishing that, and we had to change that. So there is some control, but that's based on the platforms, but not by any other legal authorities.
I have a question. People want to start this. How did you start? It's true it's like expensive to start this. You need just a camera to start. How do you recommend people start in this?
Well, it's time consuming, and time is the most precious we have. So in that regard, it's expensive. I'm in the lucky position to do this with friends. So we all, do that because we're convinced of, making a difference. We want to make a difference and doing the right thing. But if you would do that by someone who's not affected by the disease and not a friend of yours, that would be expensive, yes. The production cost of one episode is, even with friends, somewhere between 500 francs. So you need to find the money, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right. If there are no more questions, we'll move on to the next talk. Thank you very much, Marco. If I may ask Manuel Cartes, and apologies if I don't pronounce your name correctly, to talk to us about the use of applications in providing comprehensive obesity care.
Can I start? Yeah. I was testing the microphone. Hello all. This is my name, Manuel Cartes. I'm the CEO of AguCare, a platform that increases conversion rate and follow-up. Okay, so Oh, I've started. So new technologies bring new opportunities. In a digital society where each time more people have a phone, internet increase their speed, you have new apps, you have new toolkit of digital environments. What are the new opportunities for doctors? That's the question I asked me about 5 years ago, and I try to challenge how we can improve doctors' productivity. Yeah. But first, do we know where we are? My patient journey for surgery? Do I know my conversion rate? Where is my patient leak? Usually, we know little about this topic, and if we are blind, we cannot make good decisions to improve. So my conclusion is that we need to do a better follow-up to our patient journey. So where do we start? What do we want to solve? If we believe that the lack of follow-up in the patient journey is true, we have several causes. First, most of the people here in Chile, maybe in your countries as well, don't use many digital tools. So they use manual and non-standardized process. Many people around your patient with an inefficient communication. Yeah. Sometimes you can send an email, sometimes you can pick a phone, sometimes you can send a WhatsApp, but it's not centralized communication around your patient. So at the end, you don't have any metric and data analysis that provide you an insight where you can fix your journey and do better things for your productivity. So here it comes the solution. AguCare is a patient relationship management platform designed to guide patients throughout their entire surgical journey, from the initial consultation through exams and estimates to surgery and post-operative follow-up. The platform integrates physicians, assistants, and patients to detect leaks and optimize conversion to surgery. We really believe that our patients need a collaborative approach, not just from the doctor, also from all the team around the doctor, clinical and administrative, so they can help in their path to have a better solution, a better support during this journey, so you can turn this up in productivity. So what parts that AguCare coordinate? We help with the budget or the estimates. We help with the exam orders. We help with the scheduling of their own consult and others. Receives telemedicine, pre-operative follow-up, post-operative follow-up, chat, not only the chat between the doctor and the patient, although with the assistant, also with the clinic, also with all the doctors around the patient, so they can have a better communication and facilitate the way in their path. Have analytic and reports, entry and tracking forms. At the very beginning, you can learn a lot from your patient because listening to what they have to say, and also derivations, okay? We believe that obesity is not a game that is played by only one player. There is a whole team working on this patient. So if you facilitate the way they can work together, we really believe that is value for the patient. So in this journey, it's not about the patient and the doctor, it's patient, doctors, assistants, executive, and why not other players that we can add and help this patient to have the best health. So our goal is to manage your patients with just one click. For that, we need you to have a strategic vision about what is the journey you are planning for your patient. Are you planning a 10-step journey? Are you planning just one-step journey? Validation. When do you really believe that you can give a tick to that task? We have found that it's very valuable for the patient that you reinforce messages so the patient believes that he's doing well, reaching their goals. Effective communication. We do know how new tools like telemedicine, but also you can chat inside the platform. Notifications, messages, rewarding that you can help your patient. Task automation. We have found that many of the things that you do as a doctor are very repetitive, so we can include it and make it more efficient and effective for you. And finally, a dashboard that make it easy to understand how to see all your patients going into the different pathways. So for that, we did 2 experiments. The first one was in Chile with one bariatric doctor and exclusive assistant, and the KPI was the conversion rate. And the result was really good. The conversion rate increased over 70%. In the first time, without the PRM, they have only 28% of conversion rate. And with the use of AguCare, we rose to 48%. That was a very good news. So then we go to another step. We went to experiment number 2 with 5 doctors, each one with a dedicated assistant, and we just don't see the conversion rate of the surgery. We also try to measure about the derivation scheduling around the journey, and we have good results. The surgeon that we were assessing, they were around the 15-25% of conversion rate, and with this tool, they rose to 48% as well, in balance. You know, some ones did better and other worse, but it was a good feeling that the tool was very useful for all the patients and all the doctors. And when we see the same for the derivation conversion rate, that the goal was more than 80%, in the place where we did this experiment, the derivation conversion rate was less than 60%. We can see that we achieved 89%, 91%, and 82% after 3 months. So these kind of tools help patients to do their work and also to increase the productivity from the different teams or colleagues working on this. Results over a year, each doctor increased at least plus 20% in their conversion rate. About the derivation scheduling rate was above the 60%, and we have tested this with more than 3,000 patients. So which are the benefits I see for this kind of tools for you? The first one, traceability. Where are the patients? Second, mapping the bottlenecks. Identify and act to close the gaps. If you really know where your patients are leaking, you can do something, and you can do it on time. And finally, impact. We have seen that at the end, these are more surgeries per doctor. So AguCare not only improves the patient experience, but also transforms clinical efficiency and boosts the economic growth of the healthcare institutions. What about the next steps? We are working now on artificial intelligence, as you imagine. We really have a challenge with the integration with legacy systems. We are expanding to new specialties, and very interesting, we are working now with complementary services, because the journey is not about clinical. There are other services that you cannot add value, and maybe we believe that will also increase your productivity as well. So that's it from my point of view. I don't know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Manuel. I have a question. It's interesting how you can handle big data in this type of applications. Which is the first cause of patient leak in your experience?
Well, it depends on the doctor and the clinic. Sometimes the problem is on the doctor, and sometimes the problem is on the clinic. Administrative issues, you know, the estimates or the budget, big issue, sometimes goes wrong, doesn't go with the correct price, and on the other side, sometimes takes a long time to do it. So from the perspective of a doctor, that is very, very, very difficult to see if you don't have this kind of activity. So the thing is, you can easily understand what is happening. So sometimes it's not, well, the budget, sometimes it's the derivations. You want to send to someone, but someone doesn't have any agenda for you. So stop, get it cold, and maybe he thinks, oh, I can do something else. Or I pass this time and then wait for another time. So that's why it's so important to have like a big brother look into everything are you doing, so you can really touch and make more efficient the things that you're planning to.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question there?
Yeah. If we just ask you to speak loudly, because unfortunately we don't have a mic.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I increased, you say. Okay. No, the number were quite similar. So because we compare 3 months with 3 months. So it's no difference between the number of, at the input, you say.
He's asking you, with your conversion, was that reflected by increasing the number of surgeries? Am I correct?
Well, in the input or the output? Output. Yeah, yes, both.
So, because my understanding is these conversions are people who were converted to surgery, correct?
Rare.
So
right.
I suppose the answer to your question is yes.
Yes.
I have a question, if there are no more questions from the floor. Is this a two-way system between you and the patient? Meaning, do the patients have got any authority or power to input data into this software with regard to their weights, their vitals, their diet, their step count, etc., or is it just an admin application?
No, right now, the patient has the power because they give all the information. And the doctor gives recommendations and all the exams. So if you want to see from above, this is like a patient app that the doctor helps them to do or to achieve their goals. If obesity is one of their goals, they are connecting inside the app with the doctor they want to, and this doctor has a team that interacts with the patient. So it's always on the side of the patient. You can't go to any of these patients in our care if the patient doesn't give you the license or to work with him.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Eric, you're on next. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce my partner in crime, Eric, who'll be talking to us about how social media can be used to grow one's business in metabolic and bariatric surgery. Eric, mic is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm Dr. Eric. I'm from Lima, Peru. I'm a bariatric surgeon of Clínica Vendaño. Today I will talk to you and give you the tips and tricks how to achieve a good branding. So it goes like this. What we really understand as growing your business in bariatric surgery. First, we think that is how to attract future patients, how to perform at marketing, how to generate visual or virtual interaction with future patients, increase surgical production. But I think that the most kind people think that is how to sell medicine. The real thing about social media is that this isn't a newspaper. Social media is not a place to sell medical services. It's a place to educate, connect, and build trust with people. Patients don't want ads. They just want stories, guidance, and authenticity. Content is the king of this. Storytelling and tips rule the media right now. So we are well known with all the institutional brandings that belong to your works and all that stuff. And sometimes we trust in that brandings and in that marketing so that patients come to your office. However, in social media accounts, the percentages of social media users aged more than 16 years old who follow each type of account on social media, they basically follow friends, but then they follow actors, comedians, other performers, entertainment, TV shows and channels, brands, singers, musicians, food personalities, sport people, and all of these kinds of personalities are personal brandings. So 8 years ago, I thought that maybe in medicine we could have some personal brandings. So this is the important thing to reach people in social media, being a surgeon maybe, or a nutritionist, or an endocrinologist, or any type of professional that works on bariatric surgery. First, you have to position a niche. Clearly define your target audience, which kind of patient you want to help. Adapt tones, visuals, channels to the segment you want. Also focus on building a community, not selling a product. For example, if you're targeting people with obesity, you have a bunch of different types of advertisements and segmentations you can go. Ages, sex, locality, socioeconomic leap, lifestyles. Maybe just target bariatric patients and doing follow-ups of other types of patients. Complicated patients in bariatric surgery, maybe post-bariatric surgery, regain weight, etc., etc. But always keep this in mind. You're not offering bariatric surgery. You're offering yourself. Social media users are looking for this while scrolling every time. They are looking for information, motivation, education, and basically entertainment. If you join all of these things, I don't know how to say it, like points, it's a perfect engagement, okay? A user with a good level of engagement will always interact with the publications and recommend the brand online and offline. And if you have a collective engagement with your users, you can build a community. And that's the goal. So what do we need to create a community of loyal followers? First, build your hero. Build your personality. You have to see which visual and verbal identity you have to go in social media. How you look and how you speak to people. Define the value of proposition. Why follow me? Why you have to lead and why you have to be part of this community. Then settle your communication strategy. There's a bunch of them. You can be brutally honest, like being very direct, very aggressive with information. You can be emotional in storytelling. You have something that's called edu-entertainment. Okay, you can educate with entertainment and comedy maybe. Micro-content, like small capsules of information for people that just have information in less than 15, 30 seconds. That goes very well nowadays. Friendly authority, total transparent style, and maybe a humanization of the expert. This means like your lifestyle. It's just common right now. But the most important thing, and Marco told that, build your message. And in your message, you have to destigmatize obesity. That's the leading thing you have to talk to your people, with no conflicts of interest and always based on scientific evidence. Then, authenticity and humanization. Be trustworthy, approachable person, share values, a philosophy of care, and commitment to health and quality of life. Avoid a commercial tone, focusing on guiding patients through a life-changing process. And for sure, users are looking for the surgeon who explains everything in simple terms without bias. And finally, be different, be authentic, no matter what others say. And when I started this like 10 years ago, Dr. Adams was the guy that inspired me in doing this. Okay, so you build your hero, now what? Select your platform, okay? Jack of all trades, master of none. Start with one. Start with the one you're more friendly with. Keep up with the platforms of your community that uses your community, okay? There's a bunch of them. For example, Facebook goes good with ads and segmentation. Instagram goes good with reels, lives, and ads also with Meta. Informative landing page, you have to have a web page with all your information where patients can go inside and see more information about yourself. LinkedIn, like colleague patient referrals. TikToks, nowadays, with the lives of TikToks, they go so well. And, as Mark said, podcast. It's so good. Then create a content. And everybody wants to go viral, but they don't, maybe. And they think that the fault of not going viral is the algorithm, maybe the time of posting, or maybe you have a low video budget and you think it's not enough. The best tip and trick to go viral in some content, start talking about what people want to listen and not what you want to say. What specific problem do you solve for a person that is watching this video? That gives you more viewer attention in your video, and that goes viral. Finally, what opportunity will be missed by the person who is not going to watch this video? That will give you more shares, and that will give you viralization. So if you don't have time for content, delegate your teamwork. This is the team that works with me. Bupas handles all my visuals, content, editions, and healthy media, things by Sean Rico. He's my manager, and he's my brand manager when we start working from some brands and representations. He handles with all the team, the legal team in that. Okay, but how do I grow my business in bariatric surgery with social media? The sales funnel strategy is just written. First, attraction. User intercepts your contact, viral videos, ads, etc. They have to have message that connects the attention, needs, problems, demands of the users, and that converts them into leads. Qualification. Explain what you offer, your differential, your results, and then the price range. That's so important, but because that will filter crap leads and people that just want maybe low costs, or maybe they just want to look for something else. Then make the first interaction, potential leads, meet the bariatric surgery team, and service. Show your service differentials in real life. Give an exclusive offer to make your first step to the purchase and the conversion. Then you have to have a sale closing, and this has to be handled by sales specialists in the team. They have to be trained in negotiations and sales strategies by experts. Finally, bring some loyalty in your community. All the patients you have reached, they have to become like fans. They have to keep in touch with you. Follow-ups, maybe all the services that could stick the patients along the way, events, and for sure, create a word of mouth. These are my tips and tricks for you that started in 10 years ago. Study the market, look at your colleagues, professional competitives, how much competitive there are. Bench marketing is so important. And don't worry about the haters. Haters are the best. They really impulse your engagement. People that love your content, they just say it, just tap a like, and they just go away. But haters are always there. They always are there, and they share your content for a good thing, for a bad thing. They are the best fans. Yeah. Your goal, attract people's attentions to change their lives. Attention in social media is the actual currency. You give information, they give you your attention. And be constant. Keep on. Be constant with your content. Don't stop publishing. And this is very important. Play by the rules of the ethics and rules of your bariatric surgery country board. Each country has themselves, and the board and colleagues will love that. And even more if you're doing great. So keep up with the rules. Make people prefer you by being good and not cheap. Cheap products are attractive to toxic consumers. Nobody wants to have a toxic patient, and it's very difficult to get out of the low-cost deep hole. People start having low costs, and then they realize it's not a good way to work. It's really difficult to go out. Analyze your stats, weekly meetings, test our discipline. You have to do your weekly meetings with your marketing team, revise your ad targeting, your content, and I tried everything in these 10 years. It's like ads showing the cost, discounts, testimonials with recommendations, be with your gastric trophy and your sleeve there, live surgeries, congress posts, and they really, really, really don't have much engagement. The most engagement you will earn is giving good value of content. And this is a good, nice tip and trick. How much to invest in publicity, marketing, and ads? Experts recommend that the total cost of your certain patient, if your patient is, the cost of the surgery is like $10,000, you have to invest $10,000 in your publicity and your marketing. Or maybe just 15 to 20% of your net income just to start. But the most recommendation I could give you is shine with your own light, not oversharing the rest in social media. That's the best recommendation. People know that. People listen to that. People realize that. That cat started a great community 10 years ago. I used that filter in Instagram to create a community and better engagement with funny things and people asking questions and all that, and we started a great branding with this cat. It sounds weird, but people like that, and people like trust you by that. Conclusions. Okay, so social media is not direct sales channel, but a trust building tool. The key is the building a community, not followers. Build your fans. Personal branding is just as important as institutional branding. And a digital strategy must be specific and focused, well segmented. Finally, growing a bariatric surgery practice through social media requires a structured method with a multidisciplinary team of people. Thank you very much.
Eric, thank you very much. This talk was full of pearls, to be honest. So before I start talking, I'd open the floor for any questions, please.
Yes.
Congratulations for the presentation. I would like to know if you have any statistics of how many of the patients you practice come through social media.
Yeah, this is a good question. Like 80% of my income patients, my new patients, come from social media. It's quite a lot. And that's why I just handled that funnel. I just target people in social media. For me and my team, the rest is like, I don't know how to say in English, but in Spanish we say es humo. It's like smoke. I mean, if you go with maybe referral of other colleagues, all that stuff, you can apply time and invest in that, but the really big funnel is social media, and it's approximately 80%. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? We've got one at the back.
Yeah, I really invest like 20% of my net income. Yeah, and that goes into like having two big teams of audio visuals and marketing and creating content and editing and the part of management of brands and all that stuff. Yeah, it's like 20%. And then I also invest some in traditional marketing, like being everywhere. In TV and maybe newspapers sometimes, but strategically in different times of the year. Yeah. Yes?
Another question, please.
Okay, great question. My wife could answer that, but, but yes. I really invest a bunch of time. For example, the truth is that Saturday evenings and quite part of the night is just social media. I just start doing some streamings and some questioning. All the Friday morning, I just do videos and content with all the team. It's just like now it's like a sport. It's all like organized. And through the week, we also have meetings and review all the stats. Yep.
Good point. Eric, my question to you is, in one of your slides you showed your team. And I'm sorry to be asking if it's a personal question. Are these your companies or you got a third party to do this for you?
Yeah, I firstly started doing an own team, like my team, but we had problems there. So we tercerized, like
Outsourced it.
Yeah, outsourced, yeah. The two different enterprises that help me, companies that help me, yeah. But they're really into it, yeah, with me.
No, the reason I'm asking is that there are a lot of these companies contacting us and they pretty much take over your entire account.
Yes.
And they run it for you completely.
But my recommendation in this thing is that people think that there's a formula for this, and this companies is just a help. I mean, what difference in social media is the hero I just exposed. It is you is selling yourself. They just help you doing like visuals and content and editing and legal stuff. But the truth is that if you don't build this hero, it's not worth it.
Definitely.
It's not worth like paying other people to help you. Yeah.
Definitely. Any other questions? No. Eric, thank you ever so much. That was great.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Our next speaker had apologized due to health reasons, so if we can move on to the talk, which I think is a good continuation of Eric's talk, to talk about the good, bad, and ugly of social media in bariatric surgery by Gonzalo Caris.
Well, hello everybody. First of all, I want to congratulate the committee for the invitation and of course congratulate for a great Congress. As I've been presented, my name is Gonzalo Caris. I am a surgeon here from Chile. I work in a city nearby the coast called Viña del Mar, and I also teach at the University of Valparaiso. So the topic, you already know it. Unfortunately, I have no disclosures. I would like to have them, but that's not the case. I couldn't resist including this picture in my presentation, but the analogy of this picture with the discussion of the topic we're going to have is actually quite strong, because in the 60s, when this Western movie was made, it changed the perception people had in those days of the Old West. And it actually made a profound impact on film industry in those days. So you could say it was a big game changer when this movie was made. Well, I believe that social media applied to the care of our patients is precisely the spaghetti western of our times, in our work, of course. And it has come to change the interaction between healthcare professional and patients, as we've seen. So there are two perspectives we have to focus on when we talk about this topic. From the patient's point of view, we are interested in knowing on what kind of information they're looking for. We have seen that in the previous presentations, and also through which platforms they are looking for the information. So patients actively seek information and community support through various platforms, as we've seen, for their journey. Preoperative education procedures, expectations and requirements, post-operative support groups, peer experiences, lifestyle tips, recipes, and long-term outcome stories. When it comes to the physician's perspective, well, healthcare professionals face a challenge regarding their role and involvement in social media, as we've seen in the previous presentation. We have a professional responsibility. You have to invest a lot of personal time, as we've seen. You have to have quality control of medical information circulating online, balancing patient engagement with maintaining professional boundaries. The way I see it, we have a great responsibility when it comes to social media, because our opinion in social media and in society is actually very strong, and it's considered to be a reliable source, and we are considered opinion leaders. Therefore, it's important to define our role in social media. We have to take care of the image that we want to project and the contents of the information that we want to give. It is easy to get tangled in the commercial context and the visual aspect of social media because it's very appealing. For example, we've all seen photos of before and after surgery in patients, and of course it has an impact. But it's a good way to get likes and of course to get more followers, but probably sharing a patient's blood pressure or blood sugar levels is not as appealing, but perhaps that is just our mission within social media. So who's producing the content that is out there? Well, more than 2/3 is actually produced by the patient themselves, which shows that there is a need for sharing personal experiences, and social media is covering that need. So the problem of that is it lacks regulation, and the quality of the content, of course, is questionable. So patients, when asked about the content in social media, they say that it's difficult to find reliable information from health institutions and even from surgeons within this field. so which are the platforms that patients are using? Well, we've seen it, so I can wrap it up a little bit. But according to this systemic review, we have the most common one as Facebook, followed by YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and also online forums. I think TikTok, in particular in this graphic, is a little bit underestimated because the graphic reflects more of what is used in Western countries, leaving out non-English articles. So probably in Asia, I think it's more important. So what about the healthcare professionals? Which are the applications we can use for our work? Well, there is an important academic impact. Social media serves multiple professional purposes like dissemination of journal articles, surgical education, knowledge sharing, and academic debates with other colleagues, recruitment of surgeons, training programs worldwide. 2 days ago, the IFSO-like fellows just graduated, so congratulations for them too, but it's things you can use with social media. When it comes to article dissemination, journals on surgery with dedicated X accounts, formerly known as Twitter, have significantly higher impact factor than journals without X accounts. The visual abstracts, as the one we've seen here from SAGES, well, they improve impact. Evidence says it's improved in increased impressions, reposts, and article visits. This demonstrates that the available digital tools that are out there amplify considerably the impact of our academic work within the scientific community and our patients. Furthermore, there are educational platforms known by everybody, like YouTube and web search. But as you can see, YouTube is a surgical education with 90% usage among surgeons and medical students for surgery preparation. There is, though, a key difference between a platform like web search and YouTube, because the former has a peer review process, while YouTube doesn't. And this affects the quality and content and reliability for educational purposes. And what about professional communities? Well, hashtags like social media for surgery facilitate specialized discussions and content aggregation. Facebook, for example, enables close communication among surgeons. The International Hernia Collaboration that was founded in 2012 was the first surgical Facebook group, now serving as a valuable source for patients' referrals globally. This article is very interesting because it illustrates the impact of decision-making through social media. So in Taiwan, the use of the sleeve gastrectomy with a proximal duodenal bypass surgery rapidly increased between 2019 and 2024. As we can see here, the columns in gray, they represent the total bariatric surgeries that were done in those years, and the blue columns represent the percentage of the sleeve gastrectomy with proximal duodenal bypass. So we can see in 2019, they represented only 3% of total bariatric surgery. And when we come to 2024, it's almost a third of all the bariatric surgery done in Taiwan. Now, according to this article, this is not only driven by clinical guidelines, but also by social media influence. And nearly all procedures in Taiwan are done by one group that heavily promotes them on social media, like Instagram and TikTok, highlighting dramatic results and influencer endorsements. This marketing has led many patients to request this procedure based on viral content, often fixed expectation and skepticism toward other evidence-based procedures. So this demonstrates that patients are not only passive observers of social media content, but they are rather making active, proactive decisions based on what is out there. So what about the good stuff? Well, there is a big community support. Social media provides valuable emotional connection and motivation among successful bariatric patients. There is a 24/7 access, peer-to-peer support, motivation and inspiration to maintain lifestyle changes before and after surgery, significant reduction of post-surgery and social isolation. When it comes to the physicians, well, we can access specialized information, resources, and support groups specifically related to surgery. We have updated information and medical research and developments, practical advice on diet and exercise regimens, real experiences shared for adequate pre-surgical preparation. Well, the list could go on, but I believe the point is clear when it comes to the importance of being able to incorporate these work tools into our professional activities. So what about the bad stuff then? This is a big topic because medical misinformation is out there. Unverified content about diets, gastric resets methods, and potentially dangerous medical advice, dietary trends not supported by solid scientific evidence, medical advice from unqualified non-professional individuals, pouch reset methods without proper medical supervision. When it comes to the Dyson score, health quality measured by the Dyson scoring. Dyson score is a validated tool for those who don't know, for assessing the quality of consumer health information. It consists of 16 questions rated from a scale of 1 to 5, and the higher cumulative score indicates greater quality. Sample of the questions are the aims of the article clear? Is the content relevant, balanced, and unbiased? Does it describe the risk of each treatment? Those are examples. So we can see that average score of only 28 out of 80 possible indicates extremely poor, potentially dangerous information quality circulating among patients. It gets a little bit uglier. This part is very important, especially from us, the healthcare professionals. Emphasizing commercial and entertainment aspects over informational content. There is a fine line there we have to be very careful with. Social media posts can violate confidentiality and compromise patient privacy. Post-traumatic before and after photos, promoting medical tourism without clear follow-up guidelines, downplaying the risk of potential complications in certain procedures, and the comparison culture for the patients. Well, that is a big pressure that's out there because social pressure to compare with other patients generates frustration and unrealistic expectations. Individual weight loss comparisons creating more pressure, dramatic transformation, generating excessive social pressure. All that leads to self-doubt and body image dissatisfaction. I think these are the areas that damage the reputation of bariatric surgery and its outcomes. That is why we as healthcare professionals must actively engage on social media to counteract these issues. This is very good because social media is actually an extension of our clinical practice. So enhancing clinical information via social media platforms is very useful. You can even do virtual tours of the hospital experience. So before the patient goes to the operating room, they can have a virtual tour and lower the anxiety before surgery. Clinical case discussions with professional peers. Virtual consultations, all of this exploded with the COVID pandemic. Significant increase in consultation through social media. Reduction of unnecessary emergency department visits. Better follow-up and therapeutic adherence. So what are the strategies we can suggest? Well, it's important to implement proactive strategies to minimize benefits and minimize social media risks. So for professionals, we can create verified and educational medical content, actively monitor available patient groups, establish clear guidelines about responsible use. When it comes to the patients, it's our responsibility to educate about identifying verified, reliable sources, promote critical thinking about received information, foster our direct communication with medical teams, have an open communication, and maintain honest dialogue about social media. So to summarize, I think social media has proven to be an important tool in our clinical practice today. The question is not whether we want or not to use social media, but just rather how we want to use it when we treat our patients in our daily practice. Thank you very much.
Excellent lecture. Is there any questions in the public? Yeah. Okay.
I've got a question.
You have one? Yep.
Thank you ever so much. That's a very insightful talk. I truly appreciate you and all the other speakers we've heard so far. I've learned a lot more than I thought. My question is, with this talk, you seem to be quite involved in this. What is the regulator's role in controlling the content of social media in the place that you practice?
Well, that's the thing. There is no regulation.
No.
So that's a big problem. So when it comes to the controlling of it, I don't know if you can actually control, but you can influence by producing social media and not just be an spectator of what is happening out there. I think today it's an important tool in our everyday practice, so we have to use it, and it's our responsibility to, first of all, educate the patients on how to use it, and it's our responsibility also to produce good content that's out there, because it's impossible to control it. We can only minimize the misinformation that is out there.
Now, you and I know that if we're going to leave it to the discretion of the clinicians, most of the time they're not going to do the job. And the reason I say this is we've had similar issues in the UAE with such posts and people posting pre and post and cut out pieces of the patient, showing them on the floor. We've had a plastic surgeon who'd show the amount of fat he'd removed. And now you cannot post anything unless you've got a license, and the content of which, if it's not compliant, you're at risk of being fined.
I think there are two things I want to answer that. The first of all is just the thing about the plastic surgery, because plastic surgery is aesthetics, so it's different. Bariatric surgery is cardiometabolic risk. It's not aesthetic. So that's a big difference, first of all.
Definitely.
And the other part is, sorry, I missed the last part of your question.
No, what I was saying is you need a license to be able to post such posts.
Yes, of course. It's very important to take care of as I said, of the patient's privacy, because today every post you put out there is a digital, how do you say? It's a stamp. It's going to be there forever. You can never take it back. So it's good that there is the governments have the regulation of what you can put out there when it comes to the patients, of course. Because if we are not the ones to do it, then we have to have laws to do it for us.
Definitely. I think there's a question at the front, if we can ask you just to speak up.
Sorry, my voice is congratulations, guys. This session is amazing. I appreciate that you learn a lot too. But I want to compliment something that Gonzalo said. It's my partner who took the Minia. Nice presentation. The Chilean Society has a manual of ethics. We thought that this would be a way to regulate some of that content that could not be the right path. And if somebody would do that here, when Chile could pass to an ethics committee. And of course it's not a rule, it's not something very like there will be punishments, but I think it will hold back a little bit and well solve some fun.
I agree. Thank you. Right. Thank you ever so much. So, last but not least, it brings me the greatest of pleasure to introduce a newly acquainted friend and colleague, Carl Pester, who I would describe his talk as disruptive in an innovative sort of way. He's going to be talking to us about incorporating ethics in plastic surgery in metabolic and bariatric surgery.
Thank you.
Carl.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Fazam, for me and Eric. Nice to see you. We all met I'm having a great time at this conference. Now, I hope I didn't interpret this wrong. Aesthetic versus ethics. We had a nice discussion, and some of the photos I'll be showing are some of the things that we're talking about. Now, we're not as regulated in the United States. So let me get into my talk, and I think I can explain this a little bit more. Incorporating, because a lot of people, now in the US, our volumes surgically in bariatric surgery. So I'm a bariatric surgeon. I do a lot of cosmetic surgery. I also still cover trauma and general surgery as well. And when I was giving this talk previously, in years past, a lot of my colleagues would criticize me, Carl, you should leave the skin reduction surgery to our plastic surgery colleagues. Well, now that their volumes are down, more people are coming to me saying, Carl, I'd like to add this to my practice. I would like to, I need to continue to pay the bills at home, keep the lights on, and can you share with me a little bit about what you are doing in order to recoup some of the lost revenue from the decreased volumes in bariatric surgery. So my disclosures here, nothing relevant to my talk today. But I always am very specific when I talk about this with my patients and with my colleagues. I trained as a general surgeon with a fellowship in bariatric surgery. Through multiple acquaintances and trainings, I then brought aesthetics into my practice approximately 12 years ago. And what I hope to go over with you today is a little bit of how you maybe be able to create this own path for yourself. So I am a cosmetic surgeon. I revere the plastic surgeons who did additional training after their general surgery because they really are the specialists. And what I mostly hear my colleagues talk about is, oh, I'm afraid that, the patients are going to be unhappy. Well, anything we do in our career in medicine, we have to do a good job. We have to have good support from our patients, and we have to perform these procedures appropriately with good training and excellent outcomes as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of adding this to your practice. First of all, your bariatric patients love you. They want you to take out their gallbladder. They want you to operate on their family. They want you to do anything you can for them. So you have a natural inflow of patients who want to come see you. And then financial, as I mentioned, with volumes down in the United States, people are looking for ways to recapture the revenue. People are going back to general surgery coverage. They're doing trauma coverage, and they're doing work outside of this. So I know it's kind of odd for physicians to talk about income and money and how we survive and sustain our lifestyle and our families and everything above that. So what I'm just going to show you is a brief look at what, this is not a typical day for me, honestly. But if you look at the cases I have scheduled for the upcoming weeks, I've got a paniculectomy, and I'm adding on an upper abdomen. I'll talk about this in a moment. I'm adding some liposuction, and I'm adding some liposuction in different components. And all in cash paid this day, that adds a lot to your bottom line. Now, this is, like I said, this is not my normal day. This is a rare day where we have this kind of income, but it's supplementing the lost volume that I've had in bariatric surgery. Now, in order to add this to the procedures, you have to have the right mentality. And I use this slide to say, if you are on this barren street and there's no cars coming either way and the sign says, don't walk, if you're the person that stands there until the sign says walk, this may not be something that you're ready to add into your practice. If you're ready to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, this is maybe more for you. When I talked about training, first I had the opportunity to work with a colleague who was very versed in cosmetic and plastic surgery. There is an academy called the American Academy for Cosmetic Surgery in the United States where they perform cadaver labs in cosmetic surgery. They give lectures, annual meetings such as we're having here. And then mentor and shadowing. I'm now having people in the US come to watch me in the operating room to learn some of these basic procedures that you can add to them. And here's some of the things that I've added into it: paniculectomies, liposuction, brachioplasty, thigh lifts, breast augmentation, reduction mammoplasty. So this is a patient of mine who had lost 200 pounds following her bariatric surgery. And if you look at the insurance guidelines for a paniculectomy, you can see the line for paniculectomy, which involves going below the umbilicus to just remove the pannus. Now, if you get into more cosmetic surgery, the tummy tuck is where you go above the belly button. You may do an umbilical transposition. You may plicate the muscles. But insurance basically is covering, the requirements are 100-pound weight loss, 6 months of stable weight, failed medical therapy of the intertrigo rashes. So it is a medically covered procedure for the paniculectomy itself. Things that I will then add on for these cash payments are things like the liposuction, umbilical transposition. And here's the pictures we talked about. Maybe we don't want to publish these, but sometimes we do. And so just to show you that some of these can be very debilitating for the patient. So one, you're helping out the patient by removing this pannus. And they are not looking for the six-pack washboard abs. They just want to get rid of this extra skin. So for instance, when I see some patients, let's see if my pointer works here, doesn't quite transmit. If you look at the far left picture, the patient didn't want to spend extra money. I said, well, let's just get rid of as much skin as possible. And the picture below is her after paniculectomy. She has no umbilicus. You can still get into heaven without a belly button. You don't need it. and you can just simply remove it. So the patients are looking for just getting rid of that extra skin. And again, they're not looking for fantastic cosmetic outcomes. Now, we can obtain that as well, but it's all managing their expectations. This patient now, because I'm known for performing these paniculectomies in the larger patients, this patient came to me and was in a wheelchair. This large pannus she had hanging on her legs prevented her from walking. Again, another photo we might not want to post. But we took out 40 pounds, and this changed her life dramatically, where she's no longer in a wheelchair. This did involve a hospital stay because blood loss is a potential issue with this. When you are starting, location may determine where you can be. Now, we have surgery centers versus hospitals. I've negotiated working with some of my local plastic surgeons to use their operating space. If you're in a large facility that has a number of plastic surgeons, they may say, no, you can't do your work here. You have to go somewhere else, and that happens. We use our CRNAs for anesthesia. We use tumescent anesthesia, so a lot of these procedures can be done awake or with just mild sedation. And marketing, there's certain things we can do. Minimal, it doesn't take much. Again, you already have the flow of patients coming into your office, and they've had a 100-pound weight loss, and they're looking to get rid of this. This is not a true sign of Camilo. I made that up myself. But I like this sign. You see the general surgeon up there, his sign is all beaten up. It's ugly. The plastic surgeon, gorgeous. Promoting yourself is important. In consent, you want to be very thorough. There's all types of online resources. If you want to give your patient a consent form for breast augmentation or a tummy tuck, make sure they know the risks associated with it. There will be a scar. For us in the United States, we need to add this to our liability coverage to prevent lawsuits. So if you're in a situation similar to that, you want to make sure that you add this onto your policy if you're going to be beginning these procedures. What's interesting is, so my patients, they don't have any money. They won't spend the money. Now, I know globally things are a lot different, where patients are paying for a lot of their procedures. In the US, we're very fortunate that most of bariatric surgery is covered by their insurance. So in the US, we have surgeons who say, well, my patient's never going to pay for a tummy tuck. Well, in my office, if they had to pay $40 for their office visit, they say, oh, I can't pay that right now. And then they go get Botox and spend $800 down the street. So people are willing to spend money on the things that they think are important to them. So it's getting comfortable with the ask of the patient. Make sure they pay up front. A lot of times they will not necessarily do that. And then we also use financing. There's financing options for patients to apply for a line of credit. That company then pays my office, and the patient deals with that company for their reimbursement. Since it's a social media talk, I think I wanted to include, let's see if my video will show here, but it is exactly what we talk about.
I hope you had a great day, and looking forward to a wonderful weekend.
Here you see the arm before we began dissection. This video shows we dissected the fat off of the underlying muscle, and now what we'll do basically is cut it to measure. I measure it here and remove the excess skin.
Okay.
Here's what we removed. The left side was bigger than the right. And here's our final product. Imagine that, going from this to this. So I know this goes against some of the topics we just talked about, but here this seems to work. Patients want to see what I've performed in the past. Before and after photos, I think, are important. So aesthetics, as far as adding other procedures, I have a nurse practitioner in my office that does Botox, filler, hormone replacement therapy. So these are some options we have. Just to run through some of the other procedures briefly that I perform. This is a patient who also lost 100 or more pounds, and she had these breasts hanging below her waist, and she just wanted them removed. So we were able to help her so that she didn't have to tuck her breasts into her belt any longer, and she's very happy with the result. We know patients are very happy to have their wings removed from their arms, thigh lifts as well. We perform liposuction also. But I think what was most impactful is this next picture I show you was I did bariatric surgery on a patient. I then did her tummy tuck and her arm lift, and she rewarded me by tattooing my name on her leg. I thought that was amazing. So the way we impact patients' lives through bariatric surgery, through transforming their lives and changing their lives, really is why we're in this business. And if you can make a little bit of money on the side doing that, I think it's perfectly fine to add that. You want to start simple. A paniculectomy, you do much harder operations in your bariatric world than simply removing some skin and sewing it together. As you progress with that, you learn more complex procedures, add the arms, add the legs. Breast lift is probably the most complex procedure, and so that's taken some time to get used to that. But I'll be happy to take any questions. Otherwise, I love to share with you, this is the beautiful city of Detroit in Michigan in the United States. We have beautiful beaches and water in the northern part of the state, and my social contacts and ways to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's really nice to see you all, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Carl. You're truly a rock star, man. I have a question. So we've heard a bunch of news in the States of plastic surgeons being like reported because of the social media ads and all that stuff, and some live sessions doing surgery. How you handle this with your team? Do you know where to stop? What are the do's and don'ts in this practice in social media?
You mean in regards to social media?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we do have some such as TikTok. They will block the video before the person can view it. But Snapchat, Instagram is much more. You can put most of that stuff out there, and it's just protecting the patient first of all. Like you said, I think is really important. I do ask permission from all of my patients before we post any videos associated. We have a signature to suggest that, okay, yes, I allow Dr. Pesta to use my video of surgery, and I think that kind of helps protect us as well. As far as when to stop, I guess it's your comfort zone with what you think is appropriate, and I think most physicians are reliable to know what's right and what's not.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
So, Carl, for a surgeon to start doing what you're doing, would you go to colleagues? Would you head to industry to sponsor you to go to some training? What would you do?
I think colleagues is probably the number one step. Where I really kind of got started is I had a colleague who was a bariatric surgeon, also did these, and we worked side by side for 10 years. And he had 10 years previous experience. And so, and then I had a plastic surgeon come to me and says, Carl, I'm too busy. I know you do these types of procedures. Can you come help me in the operating room? So hands-on exposure. For me, I'm a hands-on learner. I know some people can read a book and know exactly what to do. But me, being there physically, kind of watching the steps and how they progress, and then management afterwards, I think is really important. So I think, but having sources like the American Academy of Cosmetic Surgery is helpful. And in that session, there are neurosurgeons that are doing these same procedures. There are dentists that are doing these same procedures because the medical license in the U.S. essentially opens you up to the ability to do these types of things.
Any questions? Right, I'd like to thank our speakers. I'd like to thank my moderator and thanks the audience for time. This session has been quite insightful. Thank you ever so much. Enjoy the rest of the day and I'll see you all around. Thank you.
Thank you.